Well, hello class. Welcome to, I guess we're at the tail end of Unit 2. So hope you are enjoying your process so far. It's interesting. I've been talking with Ed Barron. I'm sure that most, if not all of you, have interacted with him, at least via email at some point. And we were talking about what this class would look like in a fully online, kind of fully built out, developed course, if you will. And it's really an interesting class because essentially, if you were to be in the face-to-face class, your experience would be in large part very similar to what this online course is looking like, given the reality that it's really just you kind of working on things by yourself, right? So there's not a lot of instruction as far as content instruction. There's not lecture. There's basically, hey, this is what we're doing. Here's some theoretical ideas and different things. But essentially, you're on your own to develop this final product, if you will, to culminate your learning experience while in the Master of Arts in Leadership program. So I do hope that in the midst of this whole process, you are, I guess my encouragement to you would be to take this thing very, very seriously. And let me share a couple of reasons why. And maybe I've said elements of this, but I want to kind of harken back to some things that I've said in the past. So if you were to have been here on campus, and I know that some of you may have been, you've kind of dispersed out throughout the country, and so you're no longer here in the Los Angeles area if you were at some point. And one of the things that we do for those on-campus students is that we have what we call a convocation, which is basically our academic year kickoff, if you will. So we invite all of our new and returning students to come to this dinner event. It's usually, I don't know, an hour and a half, 2 hours or something like that. And we say a number of things, and we hope that they stick, right? And so we give some tips, and we have former students come back, alums that can talk about their experience and kind of give some tips, or we have returning students give some tips to new students and so forth. And typically in this thing, in this convocation dinner, there's a couple of things. If I'm given a chance to speak, I say them. Okay. And so I want to share them with you. This may be repeat, but for many of you that are completely online students, this is not repeat. This is brand new, at least how I might say it. So I say two things. So one of the things that I say is when you think, let's rewind. Okay, so when you started this program, you came into our Master of Arts in Leadership program for some reason or some reasons, right? So there was an intention behind. You chose this degree program over another program or perhaps other programs, right? So that you're looking, you're researching, you're saying, what's the best one for me? What am I going to, as far as content, interest, location, institutional name, reputation, credibility, and so forth. And so for some reason, and for me, it really doesn't matter why. I mean, I don't, it's not that I don't care, it's just that you're here and I'm super glad that you're here. But you have chosen this program at APU for a very specific personal reason, right? So we hear from students all the time. We get to the end and, students go, oh my goodness, that was an amazing program. It was transformational. My life was changed. I see things so differently. I have new understandings. I have new knowledge base. I actually can do things, that I didn't think I could do before. My life was, it was changed. I'm not the same person today than I was when I started. Now, I hope that everybody can say something very similar to that. But if all you say is that, period, or maybe all you say is that exclamation point, I don't know that you've gotten the full effect of the program. In fact, I would be cautious, but I would say this. I would say I think we need to be careful in having it just be kind of exclamatory, if you will, of how much good it did for us and us alone. Because I think that if there's not an extension, right? So my life was changed. That was transformational so that I can go and I can help to change other people's lives, or I can transform other people's life. I remember when I was living in Colorado, so I don't know if any of you are aware of this, but years ago, back in 2008 through 2010, we made an attempt to offer the Master of Arts in Leadership, which was then the Master of Arts in Organizational Leadership, a similar curriculum, same department, just some different nuanced courses and whatnot. We made an attempt, and we actually did. We offered this program out in the city of Colorado Springs, Colorado. And I was at church one Sunday morning, and pastor, this is 2008. This is right when the economy, the Great Recession, really had kind of started to just unfold, and the economy tanked. Now, I'm living in Colorado Springs. If you know Colorado Springs has an incredibly high nonprofit demographic, right? As far as the people that work there and the organizations that are there, there's about 1,800, probably even more these days, 1,800 nonprofits in the greater area, of Colorado Springs. 1,800, that's a lot. And a third of them would be some sort of a faith-based, whether it be church or parachurch or some sort of a faith-based nonprofit entity. And our hope was, as a faith-based nonprofit entity itself, APU, our hope was that we could recruit students from these faith-based nonprofit entities. And of course, other entities, not just faith-based, but if you're kind of looking for your, this is a crass way to put it, the lowest hanging fruit, that was our intention and thought, especially because there's a large alumni population from the university that may or may not have graduate degrees living in the Colorado Springs area. And so the economy tanks. I'm at church, and the pastor's talking about just everything going on in the world, and poverty and the challenges that folks are facing. And I don't even remember necessarily the scripture references or the sermon itself, other than I do remember that they talked about how there are people amongst us. And basically it was, how are we going to serve the least of these, or those that were the haves and now are the have-nots, that are struggling to put food on the table, shoes on their kids, shoes on their kids' back, roofs over their kids' heads, and so forth. How are we coming alongside and serving these people? Well, if you know anything about Colorado Springs, you know that Compassion International is one of the largest, if not currently the largest, nonprofit organizations in the city of Colorado Springs. And I knew a number of people over there. There was a number of APU alumni that worked there and so forth. And so I remember getting in the car, and after hearing really what was kind of a challenging and in some ways a very kind of depressing message, and looking at my wife, it's just the two of us at the time, and I said, what are we doing? Should I just quit my job tomorrow and go work for Compassion International? Because I was missing out on this idea that the work that I was doing to recruit students into a graduate program in organizational leadership, I was missing this thought that was actually benefiting somebody else. So my thought was, because I was kind of myopic and short-sighted, I was saying, I'm working with a graduate program that costs over $20,000 to complete. And we just heard a sermon about folks that have nothing to put on the table for their kids to eat. Like, there's something wrong here. And so, my wife, she knew that was really something that was tugging at my heart, and it was a challenge to consider. She said, I don't know. I mean, I guess we could. So now, of course, I shouldn't say of course, we didn't do that. I didn't quit my job and go work for Compassion International. Unfortunately, I had a lunch scheduled with Dr. Ron Klein. Ron Klein is one of three, I guess you could say, co-conspirators, or really co-creators, responsible for the initial creation of what is now the Master of Arts in Leadership program that you are currently just about complete with. And I remember I had a lunch scheduled with him, I think even the next day. So I really was excited about this. I wanted to pick his brain. And I remember telling him, much like I just did with you, this conversation I had in the car, driving away from church with my wife, asking the question if I'm doing the right thing. And I said, is it worth it? Should I continue? And I'm struggling right now with whether or not I should stay here, because I don't know how I'm held. And he said, stop. He said, what you are doing in your role is so vital, because what you're doing in recruiting students to complete this program in organizational leadership, what you're doing is you are giving them an opportunity to gain content, education, learning, developmental processes, and so forth, so that they can go and serve in incredibly better and more proficient, skilled ways the people that your pastor and that you were just describing. He said, so don't ever poo-poo the work you're doing, because you are providing opportunities of learning for people to go and be better equipped to serve the least of these. And so it put it in perspective for me. And so ever since I've had that meeting, I've always said this to students: if you can't say that you've gotten something out of this degree program that's going to benefit not just yourself, but others, I think we missed something. And so as you're considering your entire program, right? The duration of your program. Some of you started just, as recent ago as last year. And some of you, it's been a couple of years and you've kind of been on hiatus here and there and had some different, times away because of travel and different jobs and so forth, moving. But whatever it is, my encouragement and my challenge to you is to really spend considerable amount of time considering what this program means, not just for you, but what it means for you when you're done. Right? So how are you going to make use of your learning to serve the least of these, to benefit somebody else? Because we live in a world where it's all about us. And as you know, we spent a lot of time in our program, especially if you were to have taken 502s, the Cornerstones of Christian Leadership. You know that in many ways the backbone, or one of, I should say, we only have one backbone, but I'll say one of the backbones, or one of the kind of core issues that we look at in this program is that of servant leadership. And so as you're considering what's next, I hope that you'll consider all that you've learned so that you can feel better equipped, more equipped to go and to serve others by way of this incredible education that you just completed over the last year, 2 years, 3 years, what have you. So that's the first thing I would say, okay? So I hope that at the end you can say, I was transformed so that ... I can go help somebody else. The other thing is that I want to encourage you to do when you consider doing this portfolio, which for this week, all I need for you to do is just have the outline. So if you're don't have the website completed by any means, but you want the bones there, okay? So you want to actually work on the website, have all the pages set up, okay? So if you're going to do, however you choose to lay it out, just give me the bones, okay? So you don't have to have the content, you don't have to have the artifacts, you don't have to have the supporting documents, papers, presentations, and all of that. But you do need to have all of the different areas set up so that you can just kind of then insert all the content into those different sites. And if that is unclear, then let's talk. Okay, email me, call me. We'll do a Google Hangout or something like that if we're not local. All right. So there's that. But typically, so someone is going to do a graduate program like you have done for a couple of different reasons. One of them is to move up. So you're in an organization, you want to move up. You want to be promoted, and so perhaps graduate education is your requirement for promotion. Okay, so that's one reason. The other reason that somebody would do a graduate program, I guess there's three reasons, but primarily the one that we see, or the two we see more often, is moving up or moving out. Okay. The third one would be developmental. I just like to learn. I want to get a degree. But I'm going to make the assumption that probably for those of us that are in this program currently, completing it right now in Capstone, you're either looking to move up or to move out. And I think that this website, if it's done well, from an aesthetic standpoint, from a content standpoint, can be a great tool to show a culmination of all the work that you've done in the program. So that when you're applying for either that promotion or that new job at a different organization, you can take your website and you can actually put that on your resume, put it on your LinkedIn profile, put it on your CV, whatever it is as you're submitting materials for these jobs. And some of you I'm completely content, but this degree is going to help me in my current job. Awesome. It's still a benefit. And we live in this interconnected, social, crazy world where nothing goes unnoticed. And people are going to Google us. They're going to try and find our information about us, good, bad, and different, doesn't matter. So I always say, why not give them really good information to find, right? So just put it up there in front. So your LinkedIn profile, if you Google your name, your LinkedIn profile, the way that the algorithm is structured, is going to be one of the first things that shows up. So put this website, when it's all said and done, put as a link to your personal, professional site, whatever it is. There's a section in LinkedIn, because someone's going to Google you at some point, right? Whether it's that new job or the new organization is going to Google you. They'll find your LinkedIn, they'll scroll through it, and they'll see the website. So write about what you're writing about as if you're an expert, as if you know so much about these things, because the reality is you know a lot more than most people that haven't completed a degree in leadership like you have, or at least you will. So make the most of this. Enjoy it, but think strategically, be intentional, be shrewd in this process. Think about not just what's required for the academic experience, but what could benefit you in the professional experience as well. All right, so keep your reading going on. And I'm going to send another update here in a bit. We're going to combine some stuff so you can kind of all be in the same section on Sakai, and that'll be coming here in the next couple of days. All right? So enjoy the rest of the week, and we'll see you online.